Centerpiece, the show dedicated to fighting on the front lines of political hypocrisy, exposing the lies and false promises of our leadership. And now your host, the voice of reason, Nick Messer. Hi guys, and welcome into Centerpiece. This is Meana Mae. I'm filling in for Nick Messer tonight because he is TCB. And if you don't know what that means taking care of business. So you'll be joining me tonight, and well, hopefully we'll have some fun. So we got a couple of things to discuss tonight. Mainly, we're going to go over the issue of Biden is still facing a lot of backlash right now about that Keystone Pipeline. And there's a few other things that have kind of hit home for a lot of people. It's going to be quite interesting. So, let's see how it goes. First off, I do want to, I know if any of you guys really know me, Meana Mae, if you follow my page at all on Facebook or anything, you know that I support and I advocate for this organization, OUR. It's Operation Underground Railroad. And Tim Ballard is Ballard is the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, and I am actually really excited about this. I recently just found out that there will be a movie coming out, and it is called The Sound of Freedom. And it basically follows Tim Ballard and what Operation Underground is all about. And it stars Jim Chevelle. I might have gotten the pronunciation wrong, but it stars him and Mena Sorvino. And I'm really excited about this. So hopefully it'll come out, and hopefully everyone will go and see it, and it'll kind of bring light to what Operation Underground Railroad does. But anyways, let's get into it. So Biden is still facing some backlash from across the country for canceling that Keystone Pipeline. One of the things he did after becoming president was cancel it. And this move, it drew some pretty large amounts of criticism from the unions and others, from bipartisans support as well for canceling it. I mean, he even drew criticism from our country's ally, Canada. I mean, this is kind of like a big deal. So I kind of did some digging, and from what I have found, John Senk, and this guy, he is the general manager of Michaels Corporation. He slammed Biden during a press conference in Wisconsin, and he said the recent actions of President Joe Biden, the executive order halting the construction of the Keystone Pipeline, has affected Michaels, thousands of union trade members across the country, and hundreds of guys that specifically work in Wisconsin. He later said that hundreds of guys have already been laid off. The Associated Press noted that local leaders in New Mexico are worried about the impact of Biden's moratorium on drilling on public lands as well. While I mean, they're worried about what the impact is going to have on their state. The leaders in Utah, they've even urged Biden to reconsider his decision. However, we all know Biden does not plan on reconsidering anything. I mean, I don't know about any of you, but I don't think he plans on reconsidering any of this. Native American tribes, they've also expressed anger. I don't know if anyone has even heard about that, but they've expressed anger and frustration against Americans, all Americans, yeah. Native American tribes have also expressed anger and frustration against Biden's decision, and they're not happy either. Luke Duncan, hopefully I got that name right, the chairman of the, I really am not going to try to pronounce this, so I'll just spell it, the UTE Indian Tribe Business Committee, wrote in a letter to Biden expressing that Biden's order is a direct attack on the tribe's economy, sovereignty, and their right to self-determination. Duncan says any action on our land and interest can only be taken after effective tribal consultation. That's right. America will no longer be energy independence. That's exactly right. And unions, the unions such as LIUNA, UA, UPP, NABTU, and the Canadian company TC Energy have all taken to social media to blast Biden. All of these unions that had once endorsed Biden, they're now regretting it. I mean, Biden, I don't, my thing is I don't really understand why a lot of these unions wanted to endorse him when throughout his campaign, he talked about how he was going to do this, how he was going to cancel this pipeline, how he was going to go to green energy. But canceling this pipeline now and thinking that we can just cross over to green energy right this instant is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we are not fully prepared at all, in the very least, to cross over to green energy right now. And the worst part that really hit me was the fact that when they were asked about this, especially when Buttigieg had said something, he basically just came out and said they can just find new jobs. It's not exactly that easy. And you just really screwed over hundreds, thousands of people by doing this. Not only did you screw over thousands of workers, you're screwing up the economy. Now, Neil Crabtree, a welding foreman on the Keystone Pipeline, did a virtual interview with Fox News saying To have a project of this magnitude canceled is going to hurt a lot of people, a lot of families, and a lot of communities. The Keystone is something we've been trying to build for a decade. Now, around 2 p.m. on Thursday, Neil and the other union workers were told they weren't going to be progressing any further. And by Friday, they were laid off. Neil said, "I'll be taking my unemployed self back to Arkansas in the morning." Democrats historically are pro-union, but they hated Trump more than anything else. My union hated Trump. I personally think they didn't fight for my job because I was a Trump supporter. Well, you could be right. You could absolutely be right. I don't really understand why they supported Trump. I mean, but that's where we are at this point. There have been a lot of union workers like Neil who have lost what seems to be everything in less than a few days' time. And the Biden administration has no remorse. I mean, they show no remorse. They've shown no intent on helping these union workers find any sort of new employment or any concern at all as to what it has done and will continue to do to the economy and low-income families around the world. Fuel prices have already begun to rise all over the country. And Biden's fix is to raise minimum wage. And of course, we all know what happens when minimum wage is increased. Everything else increases along with it. Biden has surely shown this country that he has absolutely no clue what he is doing when it comes to actively working to improve the economy. Instead, he's dead set on destroying it. Unfortunately, all I can say is, you get what you voted for. And I'm sorry. At this point, I don't have anything else to say to you except for you get what you voted for. Many of us have tried to tell you that this was going to happen. You get what you voted for, and that's all I can tell you. As far as that goes, I really don't have really much else to say on that. But I mean, this idea that raising minimum wage to $15 an hour is not going to help the economy. Instead, it's going to put people who are already in the low income bracket, who technically make over minimum wage, it's going to put those people in even harder times to put food on the table. I myself, my husband, who works hard, 12-hour shifts, we know what it's like to struggle. And this just to imagine these hard-working Americans who just were stripped of good-paying jobs, all to appease these extremist people who believe in green energy right now. We're not ready to transfer over to green energy. It takes time to do that. So again, I say you get what you voted for. And you're right, Jason. We told you so. So anyways, I don't know if you guys have heard. I'm pretty sure you have, because it's kind of a big story. Twitter is kind of under fire right now. So Twitter has been sued in federal court And in the the thing is I'm not really surprised. So a child sex trafficking victim has sued Twitter. What do you guys think about that? Yeah. So last week, Twitter was hit with a lawsuit alleging that a Florida teen, only known as John Doe, who was a victim of sex trafficking, had to experience his own sexual abuse material being promoted on Twitter. Even though attempts were made by John Doe, yeah, about damn time, right? Even though attempts were made by John Doe as he filed a complaint with Twitter saying there were 2 tweets depicting child pornography of himself that needed to be removed because they were illegal, harmful, and were in violation of the site's policies, Twitter did absolutely nothing. Twitter basically turned around, messaged this poor child back and said, "Thanks for reaching out. We've reviewed the content and didn't find a violation of our policies, so no action will be taken at this time." That response was from Twitter support, and that's according to the lawsuit. This child, who was only 13 at the time that this trafficking happened, was coerced, harassed, and threatened into doing what he had done. It is absolutely sickening to me that a platform like Twitter, that someone like Jack Dorsey would allow child pornography to circulate on its platform, that a platform like Twitter would be allowed to profit from child pornography. It's absolutely sickening, especially after all of the attempts that Jack Dorsey and his Twitter minions have made to silence Republicans, to silence conservatives, to delete profiles that they don't agree with their speech. They don't agree with what they have to say. They are silencing free speech, but allowing child sexual exploitation to circulate on their platform. What does that have to say about Jack Dorsey himself? It really makes clear that Twitter is not committed to removing child sex abuse material from its platform. Even worse, Twitter contributes to and profits from the sexual exploitation of countless individuals because of its harmful practices and platform design. I don't know if you guys have known this. I don't know if anyone has taken the time to research it, but Twitter is swarming with uploaded pornography, and Twitter management, they don't do anything. The one thing that really kind of warmed my heart was when I found out by researching this that this woman who is a sex trafficking survivor herself and an advocate for sex trafficking survivors, Eliza Blue. She basically took the hand of this young boy and stood by him and walked beside him and was there to help him. I was extremely happy to see that. And she challenged, through direct message, she challenged Jack Dorsey. And I love it. That someone was able to stand up for someone, for a young child, and challenge a big tech mogul like Jack Dorsey. Eliza messaged Jack and said, "I have a question. I've been meaning to ask you for a few months. How do you sleep at night knowing a portion of your profits are coming directly from child sexual abuse on Twitter, and you stay silent?" It wasn't too long after that, on January 21st, she tweeted, "Now would be a great time to answer my question, Jack, in public." Eliza has had the opportunity to walk side by side with John Doe and his family. And he does deserve justice. It has been documented by law enforcement that pimps and sex traffickers often either coerce trafficking victims or child sexual abuse victims into making such social media or advertising posts, or even they create these posts themselves in their victims' names. This is what has been found to happen on places like Backpage.com. Backpage was the notorious classifieds ad website that was recently shut down by the DOJ for knowingly facilitating sex trafficking. So if Twitter is knowingly facilitating sex trafficking, then why haven't they been shut down? Why haven't they been investigated? The thing is big name moguls like Jack Dorsey and Twitter, they can get away with a lot of stuff. But I severely hope that this time, this lawsuit, it goes through. And this poor child who had to endure this kid who had to watch his own material, sexual abuse material, circulate. This poor kid, his material was shared and viewed over 167,000 times, and it had over 2,000 retweets. Can you imagine that? Just think about that. 167,000 views. So just think about that for a second. There's 167,000 people on Twitter who want to see child pornography. There's over 2,000 people who want to share child pornography. And these people are allowed to remain on social media. These people are allowed to remain on Twitter. How is that even possible? How is that even right? If there's anything in this world worth fighting for, it is our children. If there's anything in this world worth fighting for, it's against this. Why would anyone want to see a poor child being violated on social media? That you're exactly right. He is a sick man. It's a scary thought that there are people like this in the world. And the only thing I can say is, like I said at the beginning of this show, is I am glad that there are there are organizations out there like OUR who are trying to fight and battle against this. And I pray every single night and hope that something happens and this child receives the justice that he deserves. Because it's not fair to him. And it's sickening that there's that many people on Twitter. It's absolutely disgusting. And people are just ignoring it. They don't care. But not people like Eliza. No, she's one of the few people who are blowing up Twitter with posts and retweets and everything, hoping and praying just like everyone else, those of us who advocate for these children, that John Doe gets justice against Twitter. Twitter claims they follow strict policies that address non-consensual nudity, private information sharing, and child exploitation. But do they really? It doesn't seem so. Maybe if Twitter wasn't so busy worrying about blacklisting Republicans, maybe they could get a handle on this issue. I don't know about you, but at this point, I'm disgusted. I have refrained as much as I can from even using Twitter after hearing about this, because I'm so disgusted. And I'm even more disgusted by the people who want to even continue being on a platform like Twitter, who allows for this to go on. It's sickening. You're right. It does. Section 230 does need to be repealed. All right, guys. We are going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back.
Jason Reeve, the host of the American Gun Show here, inviting you to listen to our new show, Current Pulse. Join myself, Meana Mae, Nick Messer, and Samantha Reeve as we discuss top stories, political hypocrisy, and even stories you might not have even heard about. It's an open discussion of facts, not fake news like CNN and MSNBC. Join us on the weekly podcast, Current Pulse, right here on Spreaker.com or your favorite podcast provider. Are you a constitutionalist and fan of the Second Amendment? Then you need to listen to the American Gun Show, hosted by me, Jason Reeve, the voice of freedom. We talk about laws, training, and everything in between. Find us on the Firearms Radio Network, iHeartRadio, and every podcast platform. The American Gun Show. Our rights, our fight.
All right, guys, we are back. Had to take a quick break there. So, a little bit of a funny story here. Funny and not funny at the same time, but to me it's kind of funny. So, there is currently a war on Wall Street happening. There is a war in full swing on Wall Street between the mega broker billionaires and the Main Street small-time investors on Reddit. After GameStop Corp posted another consecutive profit loss, the sharks smelled blood in the water. Oh, no, it's not O'Hare. Yeah, I bet that. No, it's not O'Hare, but that probably would have been funny if it was something about O'Hare. It seems like every time we turn around, there's some crazy story going on at O'Hare, isn't there? So, hedge fund corporations began betting on GameStop to continue to lose. And that was basically because GameStop had filed for bankruptcy. If you guys don't know what GameStop is, it's a store, a local store you can go to in the mall, or could at that time go into and purchase video games. A practice called short selling began with GameStop, as it all too often does with floundering companies. So investors effectively borrow stocks and then sell them. Then they hope that the stock again falls in price so they can buy those stocks back at a reduced price and return them and keep the difference. The small-time investors caught wind of this and rallied on Reddit to basically stick it to the man. And by what I mean is stick it to the man is stick it to the billionaires. They used free day trading apps like Robinhood to make many small purchases of GameStop stocks. Any one individual purchase wasn't much to speak of, but there were thousands of purchases, and they're all still going on. They have driven the stock price up. They have driven GameStop's stock price up 1,000% in just a few days, causing a couple of the bigwigs to already back out and basically cut their losses. Andrew Left, who runs Crichton Research, bailed out and stated that Citron Research took a loss of 100%. Melvin Capital, another large hedge fund, is also bailing out, taking a significant loss. Let's see, Gabe Plotkin, the manager at Melvin, denies that his loss is going to cause the fund to fail. Now, because of the damage being done, apps like Robinhood they have since been banned. The trading of GameStop and other companies have been prevented by Main Street investors, or they have been prevented so that Main Street investors can't, to keep them from continuing to do damage to large corporations. What Main Street is doing is absolutely hilarious. We have these companies scrambling to protect themselves. They have operated from an idea that they are untouchable for a long time, and now they are getting a reminder that they are not, and they don't like it. They are, I mean, every attempt is being made at this point to shut down what Main Street investors are doing. I get what the small-time Main Street investors were doing. I understand where they were coming from, and I do find it quite hilarious. But at the same time, the Main Street investors need to be careful. Whether they understand it or not, I don't know, but they can cause irreparable damage to the market as a whole. And these hedge fund companies don't just deal in one stock at a time. They deal in thousands. So in order to be able to cover their losses, they may have to dump large quantities of their stock inventories. And this can cause stock prices to plummet across the board, potentially setting off a chain reaction that cannot be stopped. I get it. I'm sure Nick understands, and I'm sure he agrees too, that teaching large corporations that money doesn't make them invincible, but we have to make sure that we don't cut off our own nose to spite our face. And that is a direct quote from Nick. This is a dangerous game that amateur Main Street investors are playing. And they don't realize it. And even if they do realize it, they need to understand that they can do serious damage to the stock market. So hopefully somebody will come to their senses and get this figured out, because this is just, yeah, this is also the reason we are protected from another full crash of the stock market. Yeah, I mean, they do. I mean, they hold more power than they think, but the problem is the damage that they could do could hurt more than just the bigwigs that they're trying to hurt. Now, whether they think that, investing in GameStop will keep the businesses, the physical businesses open, it's not going to. People have stopped buying physical games. They have stopped going and buying the discs, mainly because it's easier just to buy the digital games. I mean, for us, if you think about it, in our situation, we had bought a lot of digitally downloaded video games. And then back in 2016, we had a major fire that destroyed our entire home. Now, because of the fact that we had digital downloaded games onto the whichever, I'm not sure which one we had it downloaded to, which profile it was. I'm sure it was probably my husband's. We were still able to keep those games. We didn't lose those games because we didn't have the physical discs. We had them downloaded and they were on a profile. So a lot of people are going to the digital discs. But yeah, Main Street does not know how much influence they have, and that is dangerous. And you're right. Hopefully it gets figured out. I'm not so sure it will. At least not right now. I think we've got some hotheads that are trying to play in the game here. But hopefully it'll get figured out. Yeah, exactly. Video games are going the way they're going digitally. Yeah. They are going the way of like streaming networks like Hulu and whatnot. You download them digitally. I mean, I don't think that really means that GameStop has to go completely out of business, because they can still remain like an online, you buy them online, but their stores, for sure, as far as I know from what I've read, the stores themselves, the new ownership, they are not planning on keeping the physical stores open. And I really don't blame them. I really don't. So, I want to touch on something else real quick before our time is up. So, we've got even more hypocrisy. Boy, we don't have a whole lot of consistency within the Democrat administration at all. But the hypocrisy, boy, that's the only thing that's consistent. Just telling you. I mean, if there's anything that they are consistent on, it is hypocrisy. So the Democrats are ticked off right now because a Twitter account by the name of Cuomo Watch tweeted and edited Maxine Waters, and it was targeted at Governor Cuomo, New York Governor Cuomo. And the tweet says, if you see anybody from the Cuomo administration in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. Does that quote sound familiar to you guys? I mean, because it sounds really familiar to me. Yeah. I mean, I have a snippet that I could play. But, yeah. That tweet, or that, not tweet, but that quote was originally said by Maxine Waters herself in 2018, but she made that quote about the Trump administration officials, not about the Cuomo administration. That was originally directed. So basically what this Twitter account, Cuomo Watch, did was they just kind of tweaked the quote just a little bit. Okay? They tweaked the quote a little bit. And of course, the Democrats have conveniently forgotten who originally said those inciting words, or they have so eagerly defended Waters' reasoning for saying them. I mean, if we're going to continually condemn the incitement of violence, shouldn't we be holding everyone who has participated in incitement accountable? But of course, we all know that the left holds themselves to a different standard. As long as you are a Democrat, you can incite violence all you want without consequence. All you want. But if you are a Republican or a conservative libertarian, you can bet you will be blacklisted, bashed, and deemed a domestic terrorist. Anyone want to hear some of the hypocritical tweets? Yeah, well, you're going to hear them anyways. So, after Cuomo Watch tweeted this edited quote that Maxine Waters had originally said about the Trump administration, Democratic Twitter users got on there and said, this is encouraging violence against public officials. This one is a quote. This is a quote from Kathy Hutchell. Okay? This is encouraging violence against public officials. Plain and simple. Absolutely disgusting. No tolerance for this. Haven't we learned the lessons from Washington, D.C. just weeks ago? And then Ken Zabrowski says, this is dangerous, reprehensible, and has no place in any public discussion. Oh, spare me. Someone else did it too excuse. Someone else saying a variation of this doesn't change the fact that this is seeking to incite violence against a public official and their staff. Well, Ken, isn't that what happened when Maxine Waters incited violence against the Trump administration? I seem to recall BLM and Antifa rioters walking into businesses, restaurants, becoming verbally and sometimes even physically violent towards anyone associated with the Trump administration. Yet it is somehow applauded when someone like Maxine Waters incites violence. The hatred unleashed is not by his gang, by Trump and his gang. I assure you, it has already been unleashed by those in the Democratic Party. It has been unleashed by those who have applauded Antifa and BLM. Because if you guys haven't realized, I don't know if you guys know this, but they are applauding BLM. But you know what? Just leave it to the Democrats to put their hypocrisy on full display without batting an eye. It is surely at a level that I have never seen before. The I can do no wrong party. The party that undoubtedly has no clue how incredibly toxic they are. This is absolutely and completely sickening. The only thing that they have been consistent on is their hypocrisy. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for tonight's episode of Current Pulse. I am glad that you guys all decided to join me, Meana Mae, while I stepped in for Nick tonight, since he was TCB. I had some fun, and I was able to get off my chest what I really needed to say. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. So I hope you guys will join Nick next Saturday, the same time, same bat place, same bat time, same bat channel, basically. All right, guys, this is it. And everyone have a great night. This is Meana Mae signing off.
Thanks for listening tonight, and remember, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Benjamin Franklin. You can reach me at www.facebook.com/centerpiece. You can also email me at centerpieceshow@gmail.com, or you can shoot me a tweet at Centerpiece Show on Twitter. Thanks again for listening.